All right. Awesome. What's up, Vision Pros? I am super excited to have my the best host I've ever been on a show for, John Jaramillo. I was gonna say my favorite, but that puts some of my great friends down. I don't want to do the favorites club, but John did a phenomenal job of hosting me probably about a year ago on his show, the Book Leads podcast. The exciting news is he's got another podcast as well that he's launched, the Leadership Syllabus. So definitely check those out. Today, we're going to be talking about leading through uncertainty. And so many of us have so much uncertainty around us. It could be our own personal lives. It could be just turn the news on, and look and see what's going on. It could be the apocalyptic weather that occurred. I'm down in Ecuador, so my weather is kind of nice right now. I'm not gonna lie. But some of you guys have been through some things, and how do you lead through those uncertain times? And we're going to talk about curiosity and how curiosity is a strength that so many people overlook. My personal coach, Fletcher Ellingson, phenomenal. Well, one of my coaches, but he is the go-to for all things Jackson needs clear headspace and mindset stuff. I've never met anybody like Fletcher. So he's all about curiosity, stories, and how we can lace our stories in. I've fallen into the bad habit in some years of not necessarily like whining and being a victim, but portraying my story in a way that makes it more about me than about those that I'm serving. And so it's really neat to learn like, okay, well, there's lots of ways we can tell our stories. How do we do so in a way that effectively leads? And the human side of leadership as well. Something that, again, it's easy to sleep on and overlook, but if we're not careful, we can get very, very far into tactics and forget about the value of the people who are in front of us. So I'm super excited to have John on. He's also the coach of Coach It Out. Is that a book as well, John? Am I wrong
No,
about that? Not a book,
not a book.
a lived lifestyle and an opportunity as well. And so that's the name of your brand, correct?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Coach It Out, the book leads, and the leadership syllabus. We've got three phenomenal resources to gain from John. But as we talk, I want those of you who are podcasters as well as visionaries, go watch some of John's episodes. Go see how he poses himself as a leader, how he holds himself, how he's able to, just make space for the leaders that he's interviewing. I felt like I was talking to Jimmy Kimmel or Jimmy Fallon, or one of the legends of late night television as I was talking on my show. So I've done enough talking for now. John, welcome to Vision Pros Live, man.
Jackson, thank you so much for having me here. It's great to have you on. It's amazing and incredible that it's been, close to a year, if not over, since we last saw each other.
I can't believe it. Time goes too fast. And that's, again, I'm going to go back to this leadership thing and why I wanted to bring you on. I've been working so hard on figuring out, okay, if I want to be a leader at the next level, if I want to be able to help millions of people, possibly billions of people, I need to work on my own leadership. And part of that means I need to lean into the leaders that I know, like, and trust, the leaders that I'm looking up to and aspiring to be like. And you're one of those, John. So um, leading through uncertainty, and the elements that we talked about, where do you want to start?
Wherever you want, man. Uncertainty, wherever you take me, I'm gonna come up with something. I'm gonna draw from my past, my story, my work, and I'll meet you wherever you want to go.
I love that. And we will go in order of what we wrote in the description. I always want to make sure we fulfill. It's a super important piece of this. Leadership isn't about having all the answers. And so we just got to see that on display by John. He wasn't like, oh, let me tell you exactly where we're going to go, Jackson. Right? That Matt Cutts, search director for Google, got to train. We were in we were Y Combinator company in my first startup. And he said, the true sign of an expert is not somebody who knows all the answers. It's the person who's willing to go get the answers. And so I think we're both of that type of mindset, John. If leadership's not about having all the answers, and Matt Cutts got a great quote on that as well. What is leadership? What is it about?
I mean, for me, it's bringing the person that is the best facilitator of the resources in front of them, whether it's people, finances, whatever it may be. They can bring the best value out of everything that's around them, especially people. The best leaders I've seen, like you said, they didn't come in with the answers, but they were able to pick out the golden nuggets out of the people that were working for them. They were able to ask questions. They started as a student. All of this sounds cliche with everything that's written about it. I'm speaking from experience. and what I see. It's the people that can draw the best out of the people around them. So it's
Mm.
never, for me, it's always been, and a kind of a metaphor that I give for it is an orchestra conductor, where the paying public is behind them, but the people that are creating are in front of them. And they know when to call on which section of the orchestra at what time, calling for more with their body language. But the attention is always here for the value going outward. So those are the people that when I see that play out, it's just incredible because a lot of people need to they don't need to be seen, but when they are seen and acknowledged and understood for who they are, it just unlocks so much. And again, it sounds cliche, but when you see it happen, it's incredible to be a witness to.
I love it, and we'll move into enough depth to make sure that we don't stay at the cliche level. 'Cause these are fundamentals,
Yeah.
and fundamentals are often misunderstood, and misprioritized. So, I heard this recently as well from Kevin O'Leary in an interview. I was watching a short or something on YouTube about it, and he talked about his personal relationship with Steve Jobs, which I didn't know he had. And so I was like, okay, interesting. I get to learn from two giants who've been able to make worldwide impacts and get to hear him dissect what made Steve so incredibly valuable. And to his point, it's almost exactly what you said, John. He said that Steve knew how to focus on exactly what was necessary to be done in the very moment that it needed to be done. He was a master at being able to do that day in and day out. He said that's the exact same reason why Elon Musk is as successful as he is, because he's able to focus on exactly what it is. And you added a little bit of dressing to that, which is bringing out the best in ourselves and in the leaders that we're also working with. So this isn't just about something we can apply to ourselves, but as visionaries, our role is, as we're expanding the vision, is that how do we bring out the best of the other people who are helping us build our vision. So we talked about how curiosity, humanity, and the willingness to listen play into this. Let's talk about curiosity, John. Let me also get clear on something. We both have teams. Did my team come up with this description on their own, or did we also get a lot of input from you on it?
I spoke to again uncertainty. Your team asked me what should the title be. I'm like, all right, well, Jackson invited me. What does he think the best value is that I can bring?
That's
It's
right.
not a cop out, but if you invited me, there was something you saw in me that was worth bringing. It's like, what does he want? I said, here are the areas that I could speak to, and then they put together that title, which I
Right.
loved right off the bat.
That's correct. And I remember because we did that too, and I was like, man, I bet John's vision's changed a bit over the last year too. And so we're looking at it and thinking, and we're collaborating about it and expanding. So I sometimes forget the process that flows. I'm like, man, I want to put John on the spot if he didn't say anything about curiosity. But at the
Nah.
same time, there we go. We're back to the opportunity with uncertainty. And when you got mathematicians, here's the other thing, guys. When as a visionary, you're going to find people who are able to solve certain problems, and they're not going to have a clue about other problems. That's life. That's just the blessing of living and building relationships. It's the same thing in a marriage. Next thing you know, your spouse doesn't know how to balance a budget, or they find out that you don't know how to cook anything beyond spaghetti. Right? Those realities happen, and so we're going to talk about our own experiences on curiosity, and either one of us get in a pickle where we're like, I don't know the formula to that one. Then also, as an expert, as a leader, the opportunity to be vulnerable with your team. Don't pretend you know how to fly the plane if you don't know how to fly the plane, right? That's something you want to speak about, so make sure to protect everybody. So curiosity, John, how does curiosity play into leadership?
For me, it's the foundation of everything.
Mm.
Don't come at me with leadership lessons at all if you don't include curiosity as the bedrock and foundation of leadership. I will die on that hill. There has to
Cool.
be, I will die on that hill. There has to be curiosity about yourself and other people. If there's no curiosity, nothing else can happen um, authentically. You can try to BS your way through it, but you have to be curious. You have to develop that curiosity. If it's not innate to you, you can develop it because some
Yeah.
people just don't know. They're going through life with the script that's handed to them. This is what a manager looks like. This is what a supervisor looks like. This is what a leader looks like. Okay, and then they conform to those definitions. So they just a lot of people just need to be aware to the tools that they have within them. And curiosity is one. But it's incredible what a launching pad it is to ask somebody what they think and how much they believe they can go look for. Some people have to be introduced to it, but curiosity is just, you can't get anywhere without it. Again, for self fulfillment, self understanding, realization, and then learning about the people around you if you want to lead them. Because so many leaders come in and say, this is the job description, this is what you need to do. And maybe that person's value is 100%, but this is where the job description is 45%. And if you're not curious, you can't say to them, listen, I know this is the job description, but I've noticed you can do this, or you're good at this, or this is your wheelhouse. If you don't have curiosity, you're leaving so much value on the table.
Huge. Now, a lot of us have curiosity, but we end up hiding it. We feel unsafe with it. And so I want to speak to, I'm just so glad I'm speaking to you today, man, because I've been living closer and closer to my natural, authentic curiosity and creativity. And so the journey for me, a couple years ago, an older lady that I was working with who is just phenomenal, and she's very humble, and she's got that childlike demeanor. Like she's still got the light in her eyes and the life, and you're just like, man, I hope that whoever I'm with long term turns out like her. When we're 70 to 80, like just got that vibe, that aura. And she said the key was wonder and awe. Was sticking with wonder, which is an exact synonym of curiosity and creativity. And so I was able to remember, like, man, I got that within me, and this really helps me. And then I saw the TED Talk by JP Sears. If any of you don't know the comedian, JP Sears, look up his TED Talk. It really helped me. This is actually like 3 or 4 years ago. It was before I grew my hair out. It's the reason why I grew my hair out, is because I was watching this TED Talk, and he talked about how we often bottle up our authenticity in order to fit into society. And he talks about how to break free of that phenomenal process. That I met Coach Fletcher Ellingson, and he became a co-host of our show. And we started working together, and then he became my coach. And he taught me about the value of creativity and curiosity. And creativity became like, it's kind of like his MO. I can't wait. I hope you guys get to do a show together, John. Just that would be so phenomenal to hear you guys as like calculus teachers of curiosity and creativity talk about what can be done with this component. So here, creativity put a new level of positivity within me. And his formula to utilize curiosity to understand people who are kind of coming at you, or who are kind of defensive, or they're getting aggressive with you. He uses curiosity in a way that ultimately deflects and protects your anxiety, your fears, your anger, all of that in tremendous capacity. And so now you're telling me like you're gonna die on this bed of like curiosity is king, and I'm like, I'm so ready. I'm like, okay, cool. We get to lean further into this. So I want to talk a little bit about that real quick, and then I'd love for you to add further context. So those of you who are listening in, curiosity, the way that I use it, thanks to Fletcher, he's got this formula called POC. And so if you're in a situation where you're talking to a team member and the conversation is difficult, or maybe you're talking to an angry client, or maybe you're talking to one of your children or a family member that's difficult, rather than reacting, rather than having the need to respond as well. And in order to open up your ability to listen, to understand, taking relationships to an entirely new level, this POC formula has helped me so much. What is it? Pause, right? Instead of reacting, instead of having that emotion take over, pause, allow myself to do that. Get present, 2-piece. Pause and get present in the moment. You're safe. Like there's nothing going on. And then get open. Get open with the situation. Open yourself, realize you don't have to clam up. You don't have to be defensive. You don't have to react about it. Again, you can be right there. Pause, get present, get open, and then get curious. Get curious about what's their angle. Where are they coming from? Why did they end up in this situation? How are they formulating things? And I will give one final piece on this. He taught me to ask questions, not from the court of law standpoint, where I'm trying to prove something or find justice, but truly get open about why it might be. Don't assume that you know. Don't lead the witness. And so there's curiosity. And then he said, and finally, the last C is have confidence. Confidence that everything in your life works out for a reason. that everything that's happened in the universe came to this moment. And rather than say like, I know better than the universe what should be happening, this is wrong, having the state of mind to know that no, like things are happening for a reason, and I can again continue to get curious about that. So pause, get present, be open, get curious, and then have confidence that things are going to work out the way that they need to. That formula has helped me so much over the last quarter. And again, John, back to you on this curiosity, creativity, and ways to apply this as visionaries trying to build these crazy missions and opportunities for the world.
Again, it comes down to people. But I mean, you just threw out there so much value in just the last couple minutes breaking that down. Um, to get genuinely curious, like you have to get rid of fear. And to get rid of fear, you have to be confident. So it's like a full circle thing.
Yep.
You have to be in such a place where you feel confident that no one can strip something of you. Because everything we see lately is driven by fear. Let's be honest, is driven by fear. So if you're coming from a place, and you can talk about scarcity versus abundance, all of that. If you're coming from a place where you feel confident in your skill, your character, your integrity, that you dictate and design your story, your reputation, your brand, that no one can take any of that away from you. That's why when I work with people, it starts with the self. What do you stand for? What do you realize about yourself? You can't work with other people. You can't lead other people if you don't really understand yourself. So that plays into all of that, because you got to anchor yourself in whoever you are, whatever you are, before you get curious. Um, and that will lead to authenticity. People, Jackson, people are getting better and better at smelling BS.
Yes.
They know BS when they see it. So if you approach somebody, and I love the acronym, but if you approach somebody and it looks like you're just doing it performatively,
right,
they'll smell that. So it's almost like you really got to practice. You really have to understand what the PPOCC, what each of those means. So if I had a client and I was working through that, it's like, what does that really mean for you? Because you can't exude what it's supposed to mean on paper until you find the core of what it really means to you. And if it doesn't exist inside you, the curiosity, we'll work on what that looks like. But you just said so much that is so relevant to the times. But again, that curiosity, and you can't be free to be curious and build with yourself or anyone else if you have fear, because fear is going to cause you to react because you're protecting. You're going to react. It's in our nature. I always bring it up in my podcast. We're primal. We're animals. Emotional intelligence lets us hold that back and work from the higher brain function. But if you can't get that under control and understand where you stand so you don't have that fear, you got to work inward to work outward. And you can't be effective. You can't be authentic if you're holding back because of fear, because of uncertainty in what you can deliver to other people. So you really have to understand who you are and what you deliver. Then you can freely get into the curiosity and deal with the uncertainty.
I love that. I love that you use the word practice as well. This is such an incredibly important value. We can practice things that are inauthentic, for sure. The world teaches us to do that. But we can also practice things that are fully aligned with our authenticity, just like we did when we wanted to learn how to walk. Right? It's second nature. You're not going to be great at walking unless you practice it. And so we know these things from the discipline of childhood all the way through, but we learn to start practicing things to fit in rather than practicing things that build out who we truly are. So very, very cool opportunity on that. We're going to take a little break. We're going to talk about another company related to practice. We're going to come back and we're going to dive into why uncertainty is not a weakness, but a leadership advantage, and how to leverage it as a leader advantage. We'll see you guys on the other side.
All right, welcome in to Vision Pros Live with Jackson Callum. I'm your show host. We will be doing interviews for visionary entrepreneurs and guest leaders who are building fantastic visions out there.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome into another episode of Vision Pros Live. I'm your show host, Jackson Callum, founder and CEO of First Class Business. And I'm so excited to have John M. Jaramillo on the show today. He's the best host that I've ever gotten to be on a podcast with. No shame to the other hosts. he just won the race. He was well prepared. He executed super well. The interview was fun. It was uplifting. It was awesome. We learned a ton. I recommend checking it out. We'll put it in the show notes and the resources as well, so you can see that. And if you're looking for a great podcast to be on, where you get to talk about one of your favorite books and how it's helped you lead, that's exactly what that show is about. So we've been talking already about curiosity and leadership and the things that we've learned about. If you were to go and just meditate on it, or perhaps expound with ChatGPT, if you've got a paid account, especially, and knows you, like, hey, how can I apply this to what I'm doing? Or can you create an assessment for me on how I can be better in these areas? You've already got a gold mine for the year on your hands. But I hope that you continue with us further. I also hope you reach out to both of us. If you're looking for help, if you're looking for mentors, if you're looking to truly build your visions, there's an amazing opportunity to pull people together. I call it the formula of 1 + 1, you plus me, 1 + 1 = 11. There's a compound effect that occurs when you combine great people. 1 + 1 + 1, what does that equal? Not, hey, let's exclude the other one. Nope, that's 111. You have major opportunities when you include others. So this leadership process of what we're going to talk about is going to help a ton. I'm going to talk about a few other opportunities first, though. One is Journey to Wellness. Journey to Wellness is a program and a brand by Dr. Shannon and Dr. Justin Pierce. They're a power couple. I've known them for over 8 years. And I've sent at least 3 friends to them. I can't remember the 4th, but I know that 3. And what I learned about Shannon was that she's able to help people with diseases and with different health issues that nobody else really knows how to do anything with. And so these 3 friends, they sent one, and I asked them afterwards how it went, and they said it just blew her mind. She had changes. I could see the changes as well, and I was like, oh my gosh. So I sent somebody else. Same thing happened. I sent a 3rd person, same thing. We actually started to work with Journey to Wellness a few years after that. It's like, Justin, why the heck have we never worked together? Oh, like it doesn't make sense. We should start doing that. So we started working with them. They're rebranding to drshannon.com. I highly recommend checking it out. They've got a supplement line, and they're very big on making sure that only the best ingredients are included in those. I really can't say enough about the couple and what the opportunity looks like, because I worry for my friends and family who don't have hope when it comes to health. That's not something I have to deal with. But when I hear somebody about it, I'm like, man, I just hope they lean into somebody like Shannon at least. Secondly, we'll go over to Practice Makes Permanent by Jennifer Reed. Back to that word that John and I were talking about, practice, practice, practice. Jennifer Reed is smart enough to name her company Practice Makes Permanent, because it's so important that we learn how to practice, and of course, the things that are most important. In her case, she helps corporations and companies with facilitating workshops for culture and leadership as well. She's been training in what I would consider one of the hardest organizations to train in for the last couple of decades. She works at the IRS. You can imagine what might be difficult about working in a government environment like that with so much bureaucracy. We talk about it all the time in small businesses, and heck, in corporate, we talk about the bureaucracy and the challenges of that. She has superstar skills because of what she's been through and what she does. And I highly recommend asking her about her personal reason. Why did she decide to dedicate herself to emotional intelligence? It will bring you to tears. And she's got a powerful reason for wanting to bring this to the world. So that's one of my favorite things to look for when I'm working with different individuals is, does this person, thank you, Simon Sinek, have a story that their why is so strong that they're going to do everything they can to bring it to fruition for themselves and for others? She's that type of leader. Then there's the Water Project. The Water Project is something that I came across a few years ago. And when I did, I've never been thirsty in my life, so I couldn't really relate to it. But as I chose, and this is your opportunity, you're going to choose to meditate on what's out there in the world that's not necessarily related to you. I saw these kids and I was like, man, my kids that kid's going to drink that water. I'm like, and then I started to think through, they have to leave school. Like, they do such a good job telling you what the experience is like. But here's why I invested in supporting the Water Project. You get to pick the community that you want to support, and they tell you how many people it's going to help. And when you put in whatever money it is, $10, they show you later, they'll send you the evidence of what they did to bring the project to fruition. And whether it's a sand dam or a borehole well, you get to learn about these things. And then you get to think through like the generational impact. This picture right here, these kids are celebrating water with more genuine authenticity than my kids even celebrate Christmas Day. That is extremely humbling. My friends, we got 8 billion people in this world to help. So if you don't have the financial means to be able to help with this, My hope is that you will use your own microphone, even if that means in the form of like dinner or lunch with your friends or your family. Let them know about this experience. Do a little bit of research and see it, because they might be the ones who invest $100,000 and bless 100 of these towns for generations. But even if you just bring one to fruition, you could be having a generational impact that can help that community for 20 plus years and beyond, and allow those kids, allow the parents to stay focused on other areas of their life, so that because now they've got the essentials to live. So back to the thoughts on helping others. If you know of a cause that you would love to see us support, please drop it in the comments, because I'm going to take a personal look at that myself. I'll probably review it with my team as well. We might even talk about it on here, and that will be thanks to your good deeds. So we're going to go back to serving each one of you based on this concept of leadership, and dive right into how uncertainty plays in, how you can use it to your favor in a world where there's a lot of uncertainty. John, thanks for being here, man. I'm so excited to have you back.
Glad to be here with you, man.
Sir, uncertainty. How do we leverage it? What's the key to overcoming? Rather than focusing on the uncertainty and the challenge, how do we leverage it? What do we do as leaders to make sure we maximize the opportunity?
I think it starts even before, like obviously uncertainty, you don't know when it's going to hit. That means knowing what is certain, knowing what you do know. So whatever you're working on today, making sure that you understand that to the best of your capability, to the best of the ability of your team. That helps you navigate the uncertainty a little better, because you're not juggling all these different things. When it hits, you kind of have everything settled. You've got a system down. You have people you trust, so that when that uncertainty hits, all that discipline has allowed you a little more latitude. And the other thing with uncertainty is, depending on the circumstances, depending on the business, the industry, whatever it may be, there's opportunity there. I'm somebody that likes uncertainty because I like chaos. I don't seek it, but I'm not scared of it, because I know we all get sometimes to the point where there is chaos and we have no control. There is chaos and things play out the way we don't expect. There's freedom in not having control, because it's like, okay, I'm not fighting to keep things together. Sometimes I got to start from the bottom. Here we go. So there is uncertainty, takes so many different forms and definitions, but it's again about being prepared. Like with the curiosity about people, it's about being prepared, knowing who you are, so that when that uncertainty hits, working with other people, reacting to other people, being threatened by other people in any capacity, what your core is, and that allows you to work with what is striking you in that moment, whatever it may be. So there's a lot of opportunity there, as long as you know where you're coming from.
You nailed it. We're going to take it up one more notch even, because I asked the question and you answered it perfectly. How do we leverage and take advantage of our opportunities of uncertainty? And I went back and read what we wrote, and what we wrote was, uncertainty is not a weakness. And I realized, like, okay, so the next level of this is, how do we recognize that our uncertainty, even expressing our uncertainty, is a strength? And you nailed it. You actually answered it. You said there's freedom in not having control. And that's also one of the things that scares us most, is we as Americans, we get freedom like crazy. Like we talk about all the time. But freedom also has a ton of responsibilities that come along with it. You have to provide for yourself, to provide for your family. You've got a bunch of unknowns, because you're free to have kind of anything and go any direction that you want to. And so that reality of embracing, okay, what about my freedom am I scared of? Right? That's not a bad question to be asking ChatGPT right now, and finding out. In addition to, how do I make sure that the uncertainties that I'm facing are ones that I'm embracing, as John talks about, and saying, you know what, chaos exists. In reality, there's so many things that we don't control that we think we do control, or that we try to control. And letting go of that, one of the keys for it, in my opinion, is admitting the uncertainty. It's saying, look, guys, I don't have any control over traffic whatsoever. I'm not going to be able to control it. And if traffic pops up and it's in my way, then I might have to express, hey, look, I'm not sure, uncertain if I'm going to make it on time. I did this in my podcast in the early days. I got stuck in traffic. I had a show to run. I couldn't get there in time. I called Jaime on my team and I said, hey, brother, you're hosting today. He never hosted. He's like, wow. I was like, yep. I was like, I'm in traffic. I was like, I'd like you to be there. I'll be there in 15 minutes, most likely, but I'm still uncertain. So Jaime hosted, and he's like this in his seat, going back and forth. He's a little nervous and scared, but he did it, and he trusted in me. And the guest, I called the guest up too. I said, hey, Jaime's going to be hosting. It's his first time ever. I'm in traffic. I'll be there. But you guys have it. This is an awesome time. This is a great chance for you to showcase your leadership skills by honoring Jaime and making sure that you guide him as a good guest. I know you'll do that. I know you'll be able to. And so the uncertainty created an incredible opportunity for two people. And I'm sure you guys can all think of ways where you can also turn your uncertainty into a strength rather than a weakness as well. Let's talk about how curiosity shapes better conversations and stronger teams. We talked about a framework earlier. Now let's go into the real leadership aspects of, all right, how do we apply that further, John? What does curiosity do for us in terms of, once again, shaping better conversations and stronger teams?
Oh man, I don't even know where to begin with that one. I guess it starts with, again, I could say, here, use these tools. Think of it this way, or come up with my own acronym. But the power behind any of that is understanding why it means that much to me. Just in my case, I'm curious because of who I was as a kid. I was shy. I wasn't confident. I was an introvert. So I was more of a witness to what was going on, trying to pay attention to the world. So I was more observant. And that makes me who I am today. So when you've provided compliments to me on my podcast and what I do and what I share with my audience, that's where that comes from. So that's what you need to understand, is that source of who you are. What is it you want? Because I could give a list of questions, or prepare a list of questions and hold a conversation with somebody and give that list of questions to somebody else that speaks to the same person, and it will hit different because those questions mean something different to the other person. We have different experiences. So you really do have to understand what's driving you to this conversation. Because of the way I grew up, I don't like small talk. I'm good at small talk, meaning I want to learn about you. Like we can transact information, right? But I'm the kind of person where I really need to know, or I want to know what you're about, because you can have small talk with anybody. You can report your day to anybody, not just me. So what can I draw out of you that no one else can, or they don't have maybe the wherewithal to, hey, ask that question? And I do. And that's one of my powers. So again, it's practicing curiosity. Anybody can do what I do, but they really have to dig deep to what is their curiosity. Can they sharpen it? Do they understand the value that they get by learning someone's story? Some people just don't get that. They may not think, if I learn this person's story, where they're coming from, what they've gone through, the ups and downs, it doesn't really give me any value. Me, I've stood up, transformed after every conversation I've had. I think I'm up to episode, damn it, what is it, 164, something like that, at the end of last season, starting my next one in the coming months. Every conversation, because of the way that I've dug in on the person's story, who they are, what they bring to the world and their work, has changed me. I've found what I've meant for. So again, you got to be curious. You got to understand the value of the story. I don't think we talk about storytelling all the time. I still don't think people understand how powerful it is. And again, speaking to everything going on in the world today, most often we don't want to hear the other person's story. We don't believe there's value in the other person's story, that we can't take away anything from someone else's story. I understand that, and I'm glad that it comes through and that you see it in my work.
Huge. And I'm excited to drive into the story components. We're gonna dive in deeper than the cliche aspect, right? And the level at the top. We're gonna dive into some really deep components on it. But I do want to go back to what you just talked about, because there are some deep components as well of how do we apply this in the real world that you inspired me to think through. So when it comes to shaping better conversations and stronger teams, I can speak to both of those. One from personal experience of really sucking at getting curious. And so with my teams, what I've noticed is, in my earlier days of leadership, and when I'm not being my best, I tend to get anxious. I tend to know where we're supposed to go. Like I know how it's, I'm not God, but I will act like that sometimes. And the other day I was watching two of my design team members talk because they wanted me to be in the conversation. One didn't know, the other one did know I was there. And I'm listening and I'm like, I'm not revealing, but I'm like pointing at the screen and like trying to communicate like, what about this? And I felt like I knew exactly where it needed to go. And my other team member is there patiently listening, patiently facilitating this process organically. And the whole time, my anxiety is telling me like, Jackson, you're wrong. Shut up. Jackson, stay out of it. Like, Jackson, stop trying to point this. And like, she's a way better leader than you on this. And this is exactly how, and I'm on my other side of my brain is going, why am I reacting? Why am I trying to control this? Why am I acting like somehow if this magic 30 minutes turns into production, everything in the world is going to be perfect from here on out? And like, no, there's never going to be any problems anymore. Like I didn't get what was going on with me. I just knew that as I watched these two team members, I'm watching one greatly outperform me in terms of building the relationship, in terms of creating the success. They created a beautiful banner for our podcast where you just got to see what that ultimately looked like. And I didn't have to stress. I really didn't have to be present. I got to be present though, and I got to learn from the experience. And I was like, dang, just by staying out of the way, I feel better. We got better results. And the culture for the team, they trust each other more. They both feel good. They produce the result and they get to keep building and everybody it's like sunshine and roses now because I finally stayed out. We so often don't stay out of the way. We jump in, we jump to conclusions. We don't get curious. On the flip side, the other piece of how curiosity shapes better conversations. I am so grateful for a lesson I learned about Jeff Bezos of Amazon. Jeff Bezos of Amazon made such a brilliant move. They decided that in their company meetings, the person who speaks first is the newest person in the room, the newest member of the team. And they go in reverse order. Isn't that awesome? They go in reverse order of seniority. And John already knows why. I was like, holy crap, I see it. Because if that person has to speak last, their response is almost always like, oh, well, everything you guys said is perfect. And like they don't feel like there's a place for them in the conversation. But they specifically start and go in reverse order. And then we tell our team a little thing of pass the ball, right? When you're done speaking, and we teach that new person to, hey, it's okay. You can open up. We'd love to hear it. That's a great idea, blah, blah, blah. And then they pass the ball. Okay, John, now it's your turn. And they go to the next person, and then John goes. And then we extract so much more value because we're making room for curiosity. We're not necessarily saying, hey, get curious. We're not being framework about it. We just have a certain way that we run the meeting so that everybody feels like they're able to get involved. Everybody has to kind of get involved. And that also reveals who does and who doesn't want to participate. And it also ensures that everybody's constantly looking at how do we maximize our own curiosity. So those are two ways that we do that. We're welcome to go into stories, or John, if you'd like to comment on that, by all means, feel free to.
Again, there's just so many different ways you could take that, but I love that idea of, to me, as a leader, I just love the ability to draw out what somebody's thinking. Like it really is helping design their leadership, asking, what do you think? What do you suggest? What do you see? It sounds so formulaic, but the best leaders that I've ever had were the ones where were like, what do you need? How can I help you? I've always said you could lead strictly by questions,
Yep.
Whether it's getting value or do you think that's the best approach? Do you think this might work or whatever it may be? I think you could lead strictly by asking questions. So when you can ask somebody, I see anybody sitting in front of me is just like a vessel of value. Mm-hmm. So that's what I want to impart on people is just the value that other people hold. So what you say about Bezos and having the newest person speak last, so that vision, whatever they have, their perspective isn't tainted. I always say with companies that I work with and I've worked in, like that last person that comes pick their brain before they kind of drink the Kool-Aid. The last person that came in, before they jump into your systems and accept your systems, after they've had some time to tinker around, ask them questions before they've completely assimilated. that new mind that hasn't been tainted by any programming is just valuable. But you have to know, again, that the value's there. You have to be curious enough. Even from a money perspective, that's money you're losing if you're not tapping into that unique perspective that they bring to the table.
I love it. You said that you think that we can lead with questions. You led a little bit stronger than that too right before. I love the gracefulness of being willing to flex on what that looks like. I'll double down on it. And I'll double down on it because look at a taxi driver. A taxi driver, they are the leader. They are the ones who get you where you want to go. How do they do it? Asking questions. That's it. They ask questions that help them know exactly where to go, how fast to go, which route to take if they need to figure that out too. But that is a huge, like a real literal world example that reflects the reality that if we just get better at asking questions and taking interest in the passengers that are with us, the passengers are obviously going to have a much better experience with us by fulfilling on what it is that they request by having been asked the right questions. So
And
John,
I mean,
also,
you said it before when you were sitting in on that meeting that you had that itch to jump in and point things out. Where the other person, you know what I mean? Listen, we're animals, we're beasts, we're primal. We want to jump into action, right? Especially as leaders, we have that idea in our mind that the leader has to lead. It's a fair assumption, but it's amazing what can happen if you do hire the right people. You sit back and trust. You're not letting the asylum be run by the people that are there, but there's a method to their madness that they brought to the table. There's a method to something that you saw in them when you hired them. But we tend to want to jump in. We get emotional, but you showed great restraint in saying, certain things are happening here. If I just step back a little, and that's leadership, is knowing when to step in and knowing when to sit back.
Huge. Back to the taxi. Most taxi drivers probably don't ask their passenger, would you like to drive? So constraints and rules, right? There are some important ones that are on that. So we could talk about the role of story in building trust and community, or we could open it up and talk about the power of storytelling in general. Real quick, we did say we were going to talk about what leaders can learn by listening more and assuming less. My friends, we just did that. So go back and listen to the last section, and you're going to have to, again, if you've got a challenge, if you've got a problem with assuming things, you probably don't even know it. And if you have a problem with if you don't think you have a problem with assuming things, I highly recommend asking ChatGPT to build you a quick little assessment. Where do I assume things in life? Because we all have a problem with assuming things. It's just our natural instinct. So find out for you where you're at with that. It can change the direction, the trajectory of all of your relationships for the better. So John, storytelling. Do we go right into this? It's storytelling and how to apply it, or we're going to talk about how storytelling has a role in building trust and community?
Oh,
we got 5 minutes.
Whichever you tell me, we'll jump right in.
Okay, then I'm going to box us in first on this idea of building trust and community. And here's why, my friends, visionaries. If we do not have clear visions, people are not going to want to follow us. There's a beautiful quote: the confused mind says no. We have to know how to create a clear vision. And we have to create a vision that involves a place that people want to belong, whether it's virtually or whether it's physically in the world. If people don't want to belong and they're confused about the vision, there's no way they're going to follow you as a visionary. So how do we overcome that? 2 big pieces. Trust is one of those pieces. And the other one is, if we want the community, again, we got to figure out how we build something where people want to belong. So storytelling. How does storytelling correlate with these 2 dynamics, John, in your eyes? I've got some ideas on my side.
It comes down to, again, what you want the person to see. That people today can smell BS. That people today know they're being targeted as consumers, as customers, as clients. Okay. So they want something that's real. So they want to understand that in this day and age of AI, they want some humanness in that touch. They want that understanding that they're being seen for what they really need and not just their dollars. So it's that difference between transactional and transformational. So, am I coming to you as a customer just because you want the dollars, or are you going to build more? You're going to reassure me. You're going to be my go-to company, my go-to service, my go-to product. It's everything because it demonstrates where you're coming from. People don't want to be used. We see it too much in business today, where it becomes too transactional. There's not enough reason, there's not enough why, there's not enough story. Because people, again, almost cliche, people connect to stories. They want to see that somebody has had the same issue as I have, someone has traveled a similar road that I have. Um, Even if it's finance, I've worked in budget and financial management for years. And when I put out that budget or that financial document, there's also a narrative that goes along with it. This is why we're doing this. This is why we're doing that. This is why this has changed. So that you can explain the logic and not just say, here are the changes, here's the product, take a guess. No, we're going to lead the narrative. We're going to design the story that we're going to support you with, but you can't. It's the difference between the technical and the hard and versus the soft, the human skills. So again, it's letting
Yes,
people know that you see them and understand them, because people can tell the difference between you just want my money versus you're at least trying to relate to me.
correct. I think there are people who make it to the fourth level of influence where you're able to influence without being in the room, that are transactional, but I don't think they sleep well at night.
Yeah.
And that's something that I also want. I want to be able to sleep well at night. And so you can be careful with your stories. Another good word for that is you can be intentional with your stories. And I'm going to give a firsthand example on this. It's one thing for me to talk about how when Dr. Eric Berg came to work with us at Video Power Marketing, I didn't say me, right? When he came to work with us at Video Power Marketing, and I got to take that strategy session. I was scared. I thought I was going to lose my job because I had to be the guy who was going to reveal to him that his website wasn't cutting it, and that it was one of the worst websites I've ever seen. And I was not a diplomatic individual back then. I was 26 at the time, and he had 160,000 subscribers on YouTube. And so here I am, plain old Jackson, 26 years old. I got to tell this doctor who might be pretentious. I have no idea. I know what he's going to be like. And he's expecting to meet with the Jake Larson, the video ad expert of the world. And I'm taking this call. It's a $500 call to meet me. And so I fully anticipated that he was going to not like this experience at all. And the reality of this opportunity, the guy took notes. He said, call me Eric Jackson. He was super kind. He let me play with my theories and ideas, which did happen to be right and did happen to help. And I was able to tell him I wouldn't touch your website with a 10-foot pole. I would never send a friend or family member to it. It looks like somebody stole your identity. And if I put my information, they're going to steal mine next. I would never buy from you. It's not the easiest conversation to probably hear, but he took it like an absolute champion. And if you look up Dr. Eric Berg today, he's at 14 million subscribers worldwide. He was able to, and he told me right then, he said, he said, give me 3 days. We'll get this fixed. And so his team did it. My point with this story, and going back to telling the stories, I could have been dumb enough to say, I took Dr. Eric Berg to 14 million subscribers. I could have been arrogant and ignorant enough to try to make a claim like that. And I would have attracted a lot of entrepreneurs. I would have attracted a lot of people who aren't going to do the research and aren't going to think through things. And I could have built probably a little bit of income working with people who are willing to pay the bare minimum to move forward with things. But I would instantly drive away any great leader, anybody who knows how to listen for the realities and thinks, wow, what did he go? He seems to think that he made that other person successful. These are those soft skill notions that are so important to figure out. Like, okay, how do we again get intentional with telling the stories? I'm grateful to have been involved in the project. I'm grateful for the consultation that existed. I'm grateful for Dr. Eric's leadership. Dr. Eric made Dr. Eric Dr. Eric. LeBron James is a great coach in JJ Redick, and he's had other great coaches, but LeBron James makes LeBron James LeBron James. We all are in charge of where we're going to go, how we're going to use our stories, what we're going to do. But one of the greatest challenges that I see for people who are close to the next levels of scale is they're too loose with their stories. They don't understand how to truly correlate authority and credibility and giving perspective, understanding the context of who they're talking to. These things take shaping. These things require, as I'll go back full circle, what John said, they take practice. It takes curiosity to understand how I might be able to improve the legitimacy or the reality of how I share my perspectives and stories. There's so many things that we can do with that And if it wasn't for John right now being here and talking to me about these little massive pieces of gold, or a little massive, that's like little giants. You get what I'm saying? The profound nature of the value of what John plants. Why? Decades of wisdom, decades of being intentional with what he's up to. And so Vision Pros, when you find people like John, don't let them go for a year. Find out how to hang on to them. Find out how to lean in. Find out how do we maximize the opportunities that exist. How do we make sure to keep leaning into curiosity, stories, the human side of leadership, building great relationships? John, I'm gonna give you the final few minutes here. This was your last chance to share with visionaries elements of leadership or things that can help them, insights for how they can build and have success with their visions. What would it be?
I mean, just from the last section you talked about, what stood out with that website was intention versus impact. And some people want the impact to land beautifully, but sometimes that's not what the person needs. They need to hear the truth. So it goes back to trust, a lot of trust, building that trust so that when you have to give somebody the tough news, whatever it may be, you've already established that trust. So just remember that all of this curiosity, all of this trust, all of that, it's not like a feedback sandwich where you give them a little positivity in that moment, then a negative, then a positive. No, that positivity, that curiosity, that consideration needs to be there all the time so that when you do have to lead with that hard impact, that honest truth, then you can do it because you've built that trust. So that trust and curiosity go hand in hand. Absolutely.
Whoa, that I've taken a lot of that for granted until right now, John. You just opened a whole new opportunity for me, because I struggle where I accidentally I do the sandwich thing, or I try to give the value. But what I've overlooked for years is that the reason why Dr. Berg trusted me wasn't because of me. It was because of Jake. It was because of Video Power. Had I not inherited that value from that entity, he would have had every right to say, like, I'm not sure if I can trust in this or not. But I was carrying the authority of what Jake Larson was able to pull together. And I think sometimes we get a little bit big-headed and we forget about opportunities like that. I interviewed the other day Nick Multibine, and he was head of global acquisition of talent at Nike for 10 years. I can listen to Nick. And he's a good guy. He's good and fun to talk to, but like that gives a context that allows the weight of what he says to be received with more sacredness, even if it's difficult to hear. I've got the value there. So that's something that as visionaries we can evaluate and think through too. Is maybe our authority is coming from something parallel to our lives or attached to our lives. But if we don't get real intentional on understanding that, then it can also make it very hard to relate to our audience when we're delivering fluffy messages or even when we're delivering difficult messages. And there's a huge opportunity. So thank you, John. You keep expanding my mind, opening my life to new heights and opportunities.
Every question could be an episode, because there's just so much meat that you've put out there, so much substance. But yeah, no, I agree with everything you said. It's just incredible. Again, all of it, everything we discussed.
Love it. Vision Pros, come join us on the top right corner too to be in the show. There's a button that says "Be Our Guest" at visionproslive.com. Just apply. You don't have to be my favorite podcast host ever. You don't have to be the podcast host that did the best job ever at interviewing me. You might be starting your vision out, and this is designed as a starter platform. I want you on here. Of course, I'm going to bring on the best of the best as well. But if we can explore visions and learn how to expand them, then we can make this world a better place. And that's what it's really all about. So we'll see you guys in the next episode. John, thanks for being here. I'll see you a little bit later today. And we'll get back together. Thevisionproslive.com probably already has your episode on it as well. The team's already been doing the landing page. So feel free to share it. And you guys go like, subscribe, and we'll see you guys soon. Take care, everybody.
Take care.
Bye.
Thank you for being here today. I'm really happy that you tuned in to Vision Pros Live. I'm looking forward to seeing your reactions as these episodes continue to move forward. This is going to get more and more fun. We'll have more and more engagement as well. We'll invite people to participate in the show. And thank you for giving us your time and attention. Have an excellent time building out your vision.